if I had to contribute one thing to the success of WATL in the beginning, yeah, that's hard. Honestly, I think it was just we were kind of there to fill the void. You know, there was lots and lots of axe throwing places opening up all over the world, and it was more that they were all just kind of doing their own thing, and there wasn't any real standard anywhere. And you know, we got together and we're like, you know, someone needs to take the reins and get it going. So, the dream event for WATL. Ooh. I mean, since it's a worldwide organization, I want to involve as many countries as possible. I'd love to have some sort of, you know, maybe larger international tournaments that travel from country to country, you know, being able to go and be hosted and experience other cultures and experience how axe throwing has brought the world together. Whatever I could do to facilitate that in a single event, that's what I would be focusing on. Well, for inspiration for the WATL and just kind of the direction, the organization, and everything, we're really lucky that we have all these other large international sporting events like the Olympics and, you know, even esports and things like that are getting extremely popular. And so we can kind of take a lot of the history of ones that have done very well and look at those and see what they've done right and what they've done wrong. And we can also see new initiatives that have come up from newer sports like cornhole and obviously axe throwing, and kind of push it forward at the same time. Pushing through and building this awesome organization, for me, it's really about the players and the community that comes from it. I love the fact that the World Axe Throwing League is a sport that is accessible to so many different ages. It's accessible to even people with certain disabilities and things like that. As long as you have the proper strength to throw an axe, then it's open to anybody, regardless of skill level, regardless of gender or race or anything like that. It's just something that everyone can come together and celebrate. And that's what kind of keeps me pushing forward, is because I know that we have this unifying activity to do. One of the hardest moments of being the WATL commissioner is I realized kind of later on that I was going to have to make rules and changes to the organization and stuff that not everyone was going to appreciate at first, in order to help it grow and progress it as a sport. And so I kind of had to accept that sometimes I would have to be kind of the bad guy, and that people wouldn't always be extremely happy with my decisions. But in the end, you know, I'm extremely fortunate to be in this position, and I'm really glad that I've been trusted with the organization, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that it's the best possible organization in every decision I make, even if it's not a popular one. So being part of the WATL helps players, even ones that don't go to the major sporting events all the time and things like that, because we have things like our online leaderboards. So people, even if you've never met someone before, you could be competing against someone in Ireland or someone in China, or, you know, anywhere in the world that we have a location that's doing leagues. You can see on our leaderboards, okay, well, this guy, I'm pretty on par with him, and he's really good. I think I might be able to beat him. So these little kind of rivalries between locations from all over kind of all come together, and again just kind of filters into having that bigger community, that worldwide community that can still connect, even if you've never met someone in your life. I've seen people, you know, in the leaderboards, I see thousands of people throwing, and I always keep track a little bit in my head. It's like, oh, I remember when they were just throwing last season, they hardly hit a kill shot, but now they're nailing kill shots really well. And being able to see that, even though I've never met that person, they're in a whole other country, and anybody has that ability to do, is something that really helps continue to bring the community together, I think. It's important to include the decisions of everybody for the World Axe Throwing League, I think, because again, it's kind of a shared community. You know, it's a huge responsibility, being the person who has to make a lot of these larger decisions that affect thousands of people. And so that's why I really like to take into account our throwers. I like to make sure I take into account all of our awesome business owners and things like that. And every decision I make is, you know, what I can do that will best work for everybody, which doesn't always work for as many people as I'd like, but it's important to make sure that, you know, they're happy and that they can continue in that community, and that I don't in any decision I make, I don't want to do anything that would make people not feel welcome. What brings this community together as opposed to other sports is, while it's still individual competition, one of the main things that's really nice about it is we're still very young. And a lot of these players are just starting out. And so just a year ago, you know, we had not as many players throwing and things like that. And now we have such a large influx of players, they're just happy to see other people who are passionate about the same sport and the same activity. So it's super inclusive in that aspect. Even though they're still technically competing against each other, everyone can still kind of come together at the end of the day and be like, I had a great time. The moment I realized that axe throwing had staying power and wasn't just a flash in the pan, I think it was probably when I was reached out to by a sporting organization in Istanbul. And they reached out and they were just like, hey, we saw you're the World Axe Throwing League and we'd like to join. We don't know if we can host leagues right now, but you know, we love your organization. It looks really cool and we want to do axe throwing. And so it was kind of that moment. It was fairly early on. I think we were still under 20 or 30 companies in the World Axe Throwing League. And it was kind of when they signed on officially and became members, and we had it was like the first new country from our original starting group, really. And that's kind of when I saw, instead of us having to reach out to an axe throwing company and trying to get them to join, we had someone from an entire other country that I'd never even considered would have axe throwing in the near future that reached out to us and said, hey, we want to be a part of this. And that was kind of the moment when I realized that it's going to be bigger than even I thought originally. Where do I hope that the WATL is 3 years from now? That's a good question. It's so hard to say because we've been growing so fast and we've been expanding so quickly. Every year feels like a generation almost, and it's only, you know, WATL's only been around for a few years, but even so, we're, you know, almost in 20 countries around the world. We have thousands of players now, and hundreds of companies in the World Axe Throwing League. We're already way ahead of, you know, we're on ESPN and other large sporting networks occasionally and things like that. We've already passed my projection for where we were going to be in 5 years. So it's, at this point, it's, what I would like to do 3 years from now is just make our sport bigger and better. Bigger tournaments, more throwers across the world, higher levels of competition, as well as continuing to support, nurture, and grow that community. And who knows, maybe the Olympics will be interested or something.